Read these example sentences. Notice anything? I hope that you noticed that each of these starts off with an infinitive. This, as you'll recall, is how the future starts out. But this isn't the future, is it? How do these verbs end? These sentences are an example of the conditional. The conditional is translated as would. So we can read these sentences as Me gustaría viajar. I would like to travel. ¿Comerías estos? Would you eat those? Él se quedaría en un hotel. He would stay in a hotel. Compraríamos todos. We would buy them all. ¿Irían con nosotros? Would you go with us? Did the endings that you just saw remind you of anything that you've studied previously? The conjugations for the conditional should have reminded you of the imperfect for ER and IR verbs. Once we have our infinitive, to that we're simply going to attach ia, ias, ia, íamos, iais, ian. Notice that they all have accents. That's very important. Now, the future and the conditional conjugate basically the same, and they have the same irregulars, but they're diametrically opposed. The future and the conditional are never used together. The future generally has some sort of relationship to the present, and the conditional generally has some sort of relationship with the past. In fact, if we think about the future of probability, where somebody probably is, what is probably happening, the conditional looks at probability from the past. What must have happened? Where somebody must have been. Let's take a look at some examples. ¿Dónde estaría Jorge? You may look at this and read it as, where would Jorge be? But in considering the context, if this is the conditional of probability, we would interpret this as, where must have Jorge been? ¿Dónde estaría Jorge? Estaría en su casa. He must have been in his house. ¿Qué pasaría? I wonder what happened. Habría un accidente. There must have been an accident. The conditional is also used in a more formal way, to be polite. For example, if you're in a restaurant ordering food, you might want to say, Yo querría el pescado. I would like the fish. ¿Me podrías decir dónde queda el hotel? Would you tell me where the hotel is? Pretty soon, we're going to look at examples of the use of both the future and the conditional when talking about hypothetical situations. For example, ¿qué harías si? Notice that that "si" does not have an accent. So here we're saying if. What would you do if? What follows is the past of the subjunctive. And I'll go over that with you next week. Here's a quick review of the irregulars that we saw in the future, which are the same irregulars in the conditional. When we conjugate in the conditional, we're just going to add a form of ia. For example, yo querría, I would like. Tú sabrías, you would know. Nosotros podríamos, we would be able. Habría, there would be. Ellos tendrían, they would have. Yo pondría, I would put. Tú saldrías, you would leave. Nosotros vendríamos. We would come. Tú harías, you would do. Ellos dirían, they would say.